Okay, so now it's the time for AZ900 learning path number 2, which is Azure Architecture and Services. Let me give you a learning path outline first because this is a little lengthy learning path. It has so many things inside that. Basically, we have first 4 modules inside that. So let's focus on that. The outline of this learning path looks like this. First, we are going to start with Azure architectural component. We want to understand regions, availability zones. I think we discussed certain part of these terms in the previous learning path, but we're going to see them in depth, as well as we need to understand subscription and resource group. We need to have a couple of practical hands-on labs in this particular learning path. So obviously, in order to get 100% from this particular learning path, you need to make sure that for each one module here, we have 4 modules, but for each module, you have to do some of the practical labs. When you do practical labs, it's going to make sense, and then it will allow you to remember those things and understand those things properly. The second module is compute and networking, where we are going to talk about compute types, application hosting, and virtual networking. The third one is going to focus on storage. We need to figure out what kind of storage service options provided by Azure Cloud, redundancy options in those storage options, and then file management and migration options. Obviously, when you want to migrate from on-premise to cloud kind of a data. The fourth and the final module is going to focus on identity, access, and security. Well, we are mostly going to focus on Microsoft Entra ID services, which are associated with the directory services, different kind of authentication methods, and security models associated with this. In order to get this learning path 2 modules completed, you need to have an Azure subscription. And that's the reason. Let's talk about Azure accounts first. When you are going to use Azure Cloud, you need to have an Azure subscription. That's what we call an Azure account. Now, what is a subscription? I don't think I need to explain that. We all are living in the world where we have Netflix, Prime subscription, or some other premium subscriptions which we're using and paying for them on a monthly basis. Azure Cloud subscription is also similar kind of subscription. Now, there are plenty of options here. If you want to get an Azure account, you can get an Azure free account, which is, I'm going to show you very soon, available on the Microsoft official website. If you're a student and studying in one of the reputed universities, then maybe your colleges and universities are providing a free student account to you, or you can activate that also by going to Microsoft and providing your identity card associated with the university, or worst come worst, you can go for Microsoft Learn Sandbox, where it's a very tiny version of Azure Cloud account, but that is enough for AZ900 kind of practical labs. If you're not going for any of this account, then there is another alternative options also, which is on a chargeable basis available nowadays. I'll explain that part also, which is known as scalable.com. Let me first take you to a walkthrough on how to create an Azure account so that it will be helping you to understand that. Remember, I strongly recommend you should have an Azure account in order to get all the labs done and in order to understand every part of this 4 modules in learning path number 2. First thing first, if you go to azure.microsoft.com, depends upon your country, you can change this. And then when you go to the official site of this, it's more or less going to look similar. And it's going to have a button on the home page of that website, which is Try Azure for free. This button is going to take you to the page where you can create your free Azure account. This free Azure account is going to come with a validity of 30 days. And for those 30 days, you are able to use the Azure credit of $200 which they are going to give you. Remember, this $200 is going to be valid only for 30 days. While there are a couple of 55 plus services which they are giving you free services which will be available for 12 months. But honestly, if you ask me, these services are not very useful. But yes, this $200 of Azure credit with this 30 days kind of validity is something which is more than enough to not only complete all the labs of AZ900 course, but it is also enough to do some extra hands-on lab, and if you want to use something for your day-to-day work kind of an experiments, this is more than enough for that. There are many details which they are showing you on this particular site. I hope you will go through this by yourself and you will register it according to your country's rules and permissions. Maybe you have to provide different details about yourself, like your phone number, your physical address, sometimes even your credit card number is required. Don't worry, Microsoft is not going to charge you for this, at least for the first 30 days. But yes, it is very risky. So just whenever you are using credit card associated with Azure account, make sure after 30 days or before 30 days, once you're done with your labs, do not forget to deactivate that account. The second option, which is not very good option, is this. Whenever you're going into this AZ900 modules, like we are going to learn the module which is describing the core architectural components of Azure. When you go to this kind of module, every module is going to have some exercises inside that. In order to do those exercises, you have to activate the sandbox. You need to have a personal outlook.com kind of an email ID, and then when you go inside that, the sandbox activation is going to be taking you to that process where you can activate this, and then after that you can use it. But remember, the sandbox is only used for the learning purpose from Microsoft Learn. Microsoft strictly mentioned this, that use of any other reason for this sandbox is strictly prohibited, and you should not allow to do that. Now, once you activate and sign in into the sandbox, the instructions are mostly going to be mentioned in this particular Learn document itself. You have to follow the instructions. In the right side pane, you can do the practicals and you can check the output. It is as simple like this. For most of the exercises which are available on AZ900 course of Microsoft Learn, they are going to take you to this kind of exercise sandbox only, where you can click on this exercise. Left side, it's going to show you instruction. Right side, you have to follow those instructions and you have to do the needful thing. This is how it is. While I'm showing you these two options which are available from Microsoft, there is a third option also which is available. Now, if you do not have a credit card, if you are not a student studying in one of the reputed universities, or maybe you are an employee of a company but your company is not providing an Azure subscription for you, then what is an option? What you can do? Obviously, Sandbox is one option which you can use, but this is very limited version of the Azure cloud. At that point, you can go to some of the official partners who are actually providing labs for Microsoft certification. One of the lab provider is scalable.com. Scalable.com is a website which is providing all the Azure certification labs in that. In order to get these labs, which are chargeable basis, you need to get associated with the Scalable partner. We proudly say that our mentorstack.com is a website and we are partnered with Scalable. So if you are looking for a hands-on lab for AZ900 labs, you do not have a subscription, you can just connect with us. You can contact us on this particular number on WhatsApp, and then we will help you and guide you on how you can get the Scalable labs. I will also show you a sneak peek of what kind of labs are going to be there and how you can do that thing. But remember, these labs are available on a chargeable basis. Like Azure Cloud is actually giving you $200 of free credit with Azure credit card kind of an option with that. In our case, these Scalable partners are actually allowing you to provide a paid labs in which you don't need to associate any credit card information or nothing like that, but it is always going to have a prepaid kind of a association with that, which is comparatively very cheaper compared to going for the Azure cloud. Now let me take you to Scalable website. Like you can see, this is my account and I have logged in with my instructor access on scalable.com. When I go into this is one of the courses which we are learning right now, which is AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. And if I want to deal with this, each and every lab of this particular course is available here. Like the first lab which we are going to see in this module is creating an Azure virtual machine. I'm not going to do this thing using this Scalable website, but if I want to do that, all I need to do is I can click on this. It is going to help me to get a page where it's showing me that this is going to provide a cloud slice, which is a very one separate segregated version of Azure subscription. It's going to give me this Azure Cloud Platform, the content version, and the duration for this lab is going to be 1 hour. I can click on launch, and this is going to provide a separate machine, which is something like a virtual machine kind of an environment where I can do all the labs peacefully. Once I'm done with this lab, or maybe the duration which they have provided to me, which is 1 hour, is done, then it is going to be terminated. Every time you can launch the lab, it is going to give you instructions also available in that. Right now, this is going to take approximately 1 minute of time to load the lab and prepare our environment for that. Same like Scalable, there are a couple of other vendors also which are providing this kind of Azure certification specific labs. If you are already connected with some of the vendors, you can take the lab from that. But as I said, no matter from whom you are taking the lab, but it is very important, if you're really focusing on Azure Cloud certification, then you should do the practical labs to understand that properly. Let's wait for a few more seconds and then our lab environment will be ready. As you can see, my lab is successfully loaded. Now it's just trying to give me a panel which is showing me a computer kind of a virtual machine which is already preloaded with some kind of a Windows operating system. And then at the right side, I have the instructions. These are all official lab instructions from Microsoft Learn only. So when I go into this, they are telling me that I can create a virtual machine using this kind of URL of my Azure portal. This is going to be my username, which is provided for the limited period of time, that 1 hour duration, which is here. And then I have to provide some kind of a random password. Obviously, after that, what all I need to do, creating virtual machine, then clicking the create button, providing this kind of details, all these things are going to be mentioned here. Each and every task, each and every exercise is perfectly configured for you for AZ900. You just do the task, you complete the process, and once you're done with this, this is going to make sure that you are successfully completed with the lab. If everything is done, cool, you can just click on end the lab and the lab is going to be completed. Right now, I'm not showing you this lab because we are not going with this. But yes, this is a third and the final alternative by which you can go for the labs and you can do it practically.